record. And okay. Why make that? Let's see. Just in here. Okay. I know there's some way to make the. When I share the screen, I'm supposed to be able to share the whole thing. Okay, can y'all see my screen? Can you see the whole thing?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Well, welcome everybody. It's good to see you tonight. This is the second to the last one of these. Hang on, looking for a piece of paper. I like to make a note of who's here, even though it's not required that you be here. It's fun for me to know who's here. Andy and Donna and Mark and Sedona.
So it's extra credit if we have attended.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Hey, I'm trying.
Yeah, you're getting extra points all over the place. Okay.
Cool.
We'll start with a little housekeeping. This week we've got chapters 16, 17, and 18. There's Tara. Hi, Tara.
Hi.
How are you, dear?
I'm doing well. How are you all?
I'm fine, thank you. Nice to see you. We're just getting started. 3 chapters tonight, 16, 17, and 18. And then the research paper due this week. Is that coming along okay for everybody?
I have almost enough sources. I still need to get 2 or 3, but okay. I'm just starting to finally kind of digest them.
Okay, good.
And so it's a lot to. I'm doing transition.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. It's good.
I hate research papers, and I would not have assigned this if.
So do we.
If the previous professor hadn't. If I teach this again next summer, which I probably will, I'll probably take that out because I.
Don't tell us that.
Yeah.
Don't say that.
Let's take it out now.
Isn't that what your husband would advise? Just go ahead.
Yes,
absolutely. That's what he would advise. Take that whole thing out.
I like him.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what he'd say. I think we're into it pretty deep right now that we probably ought to go ahead and finish it. But I'm already dreading grading them.
Well, we wouldn't mind if you took it out and then just readjusted the point scale.
Well, you go ahead and write it, and we'll see. I'm not going to be super tough with the grading, though, because that's not my favorite thing to do. And I know that some people really get into grading that whole APA thing. But I haven't graded a research paper since I've been at Tarleton because I teach a whole lot of the testing classes, and I don't teach a lot of research. And so don't get too bogged down worrying about that part of it. So I'm not going to be grading it the way some professors would who really, really get into that whole research side of things.
I'll drive up and help you grade them if you want me to.
What'd you say?
I said I'll come help you grade them.
Oh, you want to?
Sure. It's automatically an A for everybody.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
I like that.
I vote Donna.
Yes.
But we'll see. I am going to be looking more at content than form. I'm going to be looking at your ideas more than I am your form. So that's just kind of the way I am. My students that have already had me know that, though, that's kind of the approach I have toward class and toward life. But we'll go ahead and complete that assignment this time around. But I may remove it for next time. And I don't know. I may learn something from it myself this time and keep it in. But that is the assignment that's due this week. there's one more activity that's due next week, and then the group assignment, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Does anybody need any kind of a walkthrough on the library website, or do you feel like you've got a pretty good handle on that, looking for resources? Anybody need that?
I hate to say it, but just real brief, what is there a website that just real brief, tell me what you're talking about.
Well, you can find resources, journal articles on the Tarleton Library website. Do you know how to do that?
I don't, but you know what? I don't want to waste people's time. If I know about it, I can figure it out. So
let's do it real quickly, just for the benefit of everybody, okay?
Okay.
Because I remember when I was getting my master's degree, I didn't have to do a lot of research. It wasn't until I got to my doctorate that I did a lot of research. And so it was kind of news to me when I started on, excuse me, I'll have a runny nose tonight. When I started on my my doctorate, all the things that were available through the library. Now, that was in the late 90s, and at that point, we didn't have nearly as much, of course, online as we do now. But if you go to the Tarleton website and you type in here library in the search bar, can everybody see what I'm doing? Mm-hmm. Just go to the library website, and then you'll see here databases. Everybody with me? And when you go here, you've got choices as to all the different databases that you can go to look for resources as far as journal articles and things are concerned. Things that are currently research-based, peer-reviewed journals. And so there are several different ones that you might choose from, but EBSCO is a good one. We can go to EBSCO. Let's see. Let's just go to E. Or actually, I think you can go to the
Right there.
EBSCO. Okay, let's go to EBSCO.
Yep.
Well, that doesn't look quite right. Choose that. Continue. Select. Let's do that. Okay. Then I'm going to go right here and I'm going to type in, say, intellectual disability. And maybe I want to narrow my search a little bit to transition. And then I want to search. And you'll see that what I get here are 715 different articles that have to do with intellectual disabilities and transition. And of course, you'd have to probably narrow that a little bit more to get down to a topic that's more to your liking for this particular assignment. But that's from an academic journal. As you can see here, it's got a PDF full text, and so you could click on that, and it would take you to the article itself. You've got the title here. You've got the citation, a little bit of a description of the article, and then the text of the article. Now, not all of them are going to be full text. You see, this one says linked full text. But you can scroll through, and of course you can go back up here to the top and to the search section, and you can adjust your search parameters however you want to get your topic narrower and narrower, so that you don't have 700 articles anymore. Maybe transition. Early childhood education. Let's see what happens then. And so now we've only got one on the transition of young children with intellectual disabilities, using visual activity schedules for young children with challenging behavior. And you see we've got one full text there about that particular pretty narrow topic. So the library has scads of this, and that's just one search engine, one database that we're looking at there with those parameters as my my search.
All right, thank you. Cool.
Does that help a little bit?
Oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't know about that.
Well, and if you're just starting, and you are just starting on your graduate journey, somebody at some point has to tell you about this. And I think many of your classmates are further along in their graduate studies. Some are not, and so it will be helpful to anybody that's early on in their studies to know this. Somebody may have, if they've been in the research class already, I would hope that they would have had an introduction to this in the research class. The research class is a requirement for the master's degree. Ms. Donna Baumgartner, who's in this class, is already working on a doctoral degree, so she's got a master's. Tara, who's in this class right now and on the webinar right now, already has a master's degree. So most people who I would expect who already have a master's degree, Michelle Parsons is on. Hi, Michelle. She's already got a doctoral degree. So if a person already has a master's or a doctoral degree, I would expect that they would know these kinds of things already. Depending on how research-oriented a master's program you go through will kind of determine how much research and how much writing you've done. But certainly anybody who has a doctoral degree should know a whole lot about research and writing. And hopefully by the time you finish your master's program, if you're degree seeking and master's degree seeking along the way here, you'll get a lot of information about how to do that. But this is just a little snippet of that, okay? But that's one of the ways to do that search. Okay, so if you're still looking for resources on your research paper, that's one way to get some variety with journal articles. Okay, the next assignment, next week we have a pretty short little activity. And then the last assignment that will be due that final week of class is a group assignment. And let me share that. This is not it. Let me share that with you a little bit about that. Just a second. I thought I saved it here. I thought I had it open. Not it. Activity 3. Oh, it's not the research paper. Okay, well, let me just go back over here to Blackboard and I'll get it out again. Maybe I'm going to move you over there. Okay. Group project. Okay. And I'll open this up for you on Blackboard so that you can get some more details about this. But the group assignment that will be due that last week of class, you need to start thinking about right now. What I'm going to ask you to do is to collaborate with a couple of classmates, and you can get into groups of 2 or 3. We've got 11 people in the class right now, so obviously they won't all be exactly even, but find some people that that you think you can work with, and we'll open up a Google Hangout or something like that that will work for collaboration, and you can work together on this project. what I want you to do is to think about and plan a program of improvement of service delivery for a district that would result in about a half-day staff development. So you can read this, this paragraph here at the beginning. The main objective of the assignment is to have you collaborate with other professionals to consider and plan for potential improvements regarding service delivery. And we're talking, of course, about planning for students with significant disabilities. As a leader in the field of education, you'll gain practice collaborating as part of a small group to design or enhance a comprehensive program aimed at supporting a specific aspect of service delivery for students with developmental disabilities. You can base your idea on actual circumstances with which you're familiar, or you may consider an issue presented in our course readings and apply it to a hypothetical situation. So it can be a real scenario that you know of, or it can be something that you just dream up. But it does have to be related to students with significant developmental disabilities. You should identify a specific aspect of supports and services that either A, does not currently exist, or does exist but needs improvement to more adequately address the needs of students. And then you're going to develop this half day of in-service training or informational training, a session that would be delivered to the campus or the district, and you get to decide that as a group. So you get to come up with your idea, you get to develop that and come up with all the components for that. And then there's more of a description of it here. You want to have, you know, whatever you would develop to interact with your campus team or your district teams that would be going through that in-service. All the different components that would be appropriate, whether it be a PowerPoint or a Prezi. It says here under number 2, 2 hands-on activities or cooperative activities to involve audience or the participants during the presentation. And then what you want to turn in at the end is that PowerPoint, the handouts, detailed description of the activities, along with copies of any resource materials. And then here's a rubric for the grading of the assignment. Okay, any questions right off the top of your heads?
Are we going to turn them in each individual, or are we
No.
going to one person turn it in with 3 names,
The group
2 or
will,
3 names on it?
the group will submit one. So one person will submit it for the group with all the names on it.
Okay.
Okay. So up until now, everything's been totally individualized. This is where you're going to have to work with others, which of course we all know we have to do in the real world. And as leaders in the field, you're all expected, of course, you know, to do that, to collaborate with others and work as a team and produce some sort of a product, an output. So that's the focus of this assignment. You don't have to decide anything right now. Kind of ruminate over it for the next few days and start thinking about who you want your group members to be. If people get, I'll let you decide on your groups yourselves as much as possible. If we get down to this time next, well, let's go for early next week. I'll put an announcement out on Blackboard in the next day or so for everybody to look this over after the folks who are not on the webinar tonight have an opportunity to review this. Everybody can kind of think about who they might want to work with. And if I have people who are left out in the cold, then of course we'll make some assignments so that everybody has a group to work with. But you may want to pick people who have kind of a similar sensibility to you, maybe have worked with groups that are maybe like you, or maybe somebody who has a whole different kind of a skill set from you. Maybe you want to pick somebody who's had other kinds of experiences that'll contrast with your abilities. So you may want to go back to our discussion board that talked about everybody's strengths at the very beginning and look at some of those kinds of remarks that people have made and decide who you may want to work with. And we'll work in groups of about 3. We may have to have a group or 2 of 4, but no more than 4. 2, you know, if you find something that you really want to do with one other person, you know, I would certainly entertain that. but 3 is going to be a good size, but we may have to, vary a little bit with maybe a group of 4, maybe a group of 2. And I'm going to be pretty flexible on that because I want you to work with people that you are interested in working with. And I want you to find a project that holds some interest to you. Okay, so I'll put this on Blackboard so that you can see it and begin thinking about what you want to do, but we don't have to decide until next week. It's not due until the last day of class, which is I believe it's the 8th, which is that Wednesday, that last day of the actual active part of the course. Okay. Any questions?
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
Again, I'm still trying to kind of figure things out, but if I don't know anyone in the class, how do I don't have emails. Like, do y'all have each other's emails, or how do you connect with somebody else then?
Well, on the discussion board, that would be, I would think I'll open up a discussion board first that's related to the to this project. Okay.
Okay. And then you can just post out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll open up a discussion board that's related to the group project, and I'll open it maybe tomorrow so that you can start having some conversations.
Perfect. That's what I was trying to figure out. Okay.
Yeah. And then you can share, whatever kind of contact information you want to with one another.
Okay.
I don't think you should have to necessarily, get together as a group. I mean, you certainly are welcome to if you want to. You should be able to do most of this through email or phone call or a Google Hangout or something like that. Okay.
Okay.
That's my vision anyway. And if we need to do something a little different, if somebody has a better idea, you let me know and we'll work it out. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Let's see here. All right, we've talked about what's due this week, what's coming up. Some big topics for this week. How can we help foster peer relationships? Should we teach academics or functional skills or both? And why emphasize community and domestic skills? Those are the main thinking points this week based upon chapters 16, 17, and 18. So let's give each one of those a little bit of thought. Chapter 16 talks about those essentials of fostering friendships. And what I'm trying to do here is kind of hit on the topics that are covered in your quiz. And I want you to, I like people to be successful on that. And so through these webinars, I'm trying to hit on those topics so that you don't go into those quizzes and think, where did this question come from? Certainly they're all coming from your readings, but I want you to know the things that are important. And so if you pay attention in the webinar and look at the slides and then even go back and review them later, you shouldn't have a lot of trouble seeing what some of those kind of important points are. Here are some of the essentials that your textbook talks about in fostering friendships. And, we get a little bit pigeonhole-ish when we begin thinking about our students with more significant disabilities and the way we want to foster friendships. Are we going to foster friendships with other students who have significant disabilities, or are we fostering friendships with students without disabilities? And then how do we do that? Are we doing that through special setups that we have for our students with disabilities, where we're bringing non-disabled peers in and making direct contacts between students with and without disabilities? Or are we making opportunities among students with disabilities so that they know how to form friendships? Are we focusing on these issues here, common interests, shared information, some of these kinds of things? Or are we just kind of throwing it out there and letting kids make all their choices by themselves? Certainly when we think about our own friendships, we choose who we want to be friends with, right? And so we want to do that. We want to allow that to the greatest extent possible for our students with disabilities, even our students with more significant disabilities. So we want choice to be an important component here. And this issue of reciprocity, what does that really mean? We want students to be able to give and take in the friendship equation. If it's just a one-way, give only or take only, then we really can't say it's a true friendship. Some of these peer situations that we set up in an artificial kind of way lack reciprocity. And that's what we've got to make sure that we weave in opportunities for when we're assisting students with significant disabilities with friendship. Have you all had any particular experiences along this line in your work? Anybody?
Only partners in PE.
Okay.
But, and I wrote this in my discussion, I never actually saw one that was really ran the way it was supposed to, because the teachers were just lazy. But the concept is really good, and I do think there are kids out there that want to participate and have good hearts and would be friends, but kids are kids, and they're going to have leadership to really, do it the way it's supposed to. And I just haven't seen a really good, successful one where there really is friendships that are made and things like that.
I think I would agree with you, Michelle. I've seen a whole lot of kind of artificial ones that that lack this key component of reciprocity. They're very one-sided, and one person or the other is giving a lot without that back and forth that makes a true friendship. And so I think there's a long way to go in making those more successful and really truly functional friendships.
I do think that in society we're the kids are getting that way just because of the process of inclusion and stuff. Kids are, when I went to school, special ed kids were in their own hallway and their own classrooms, but now kids are just surrounded by all kinds of kids that, they're not as afraid to necessarily have those friendships. But as far as manufacturing them through programs at school, I just haven't seen good ones.
Yeah. And I think you're right there too, that we do have a whole lot more acceptance of kids who look different, who act different, things like that, just because of by virtue of the fact that we've got kids of all types in all kinds of settings these days. And so our general ed kids are not surprised by a lot of our kids with disabilities when they see them in the hallways, when they see them in the cafeteria. But I think what we're still lacking, though, in many cases, is true friendship. There may be acceptance of them as colleagues, if you will, in the school setting. But as far as friendship is concerned, I think we're still lacking that leap to some of these components that we see here on this particular slide. Regular contact. We can set up these opportunities for kids to get together, but then, are they maintained on their own? Do we really have common interest? Are students, sharing information back and forth? Do we have that element of reciprocity? Is it a choice? Are students, really choosing to be with one another, or is it something that the adults have manufactured? So all of those things, I think, are important to consider when we're looking at these issues of relationships. Now, here are a few strategies for teaching skills that enhance relationships, and your book talks about each of these in some detail. We get some information there about using alternative and augmentative communication devices for fostering relationships. Collateral skills instruction. There is a question on your test about collateral skills and what those really are. So pay attention to that. Self-management. What is self-management? Anybody remember?
Where they're able to do it for themselves.
Yeah, and the issue of advocacy kind of goes along with that, being able to speak for themselves and take care of initiating some of those relationships themselves and taking some responsibility for it. So all of these things are appropriate strategies. We do want to equip students with the social skills that they need for being successful in those relationships. The next chapter, 17, deals with academics. And certainly this is an issue that's been kind of controversial through the years as to how much, how deep do we go in academics with our students with more significant disabilities? Do we stick with a strictly functional set of skills and skill development, or do we dive into the general curriculum more? Well, certainly in the last few years, we have an expectation to deliver instruction from the general ed curriculum to all students, regardless of their ability level. We're to be pulling from the general ed curriculum, and that's a mandate now. And so we've got to do that. We've still got some schools and some teachers and some administrators who do a lot of pushback on that, but that is a critical issue that we need, as educators on the special education front, need to be pushing for, is that immersion into the general curriculum and coupling of that, of course, with functional skills. How about reading? Have you read your textbook yet to see what it says about reading and how important it is or is not with students with more significant disabilities? So maybe some ways of teaching it. Your book talks a little bit about time delay and another method. Think about removing prompts in teaching kiddos to read. What's more important, phonics or sight words with kids with more significant disabilities? Anybody know on that one? What do we see a lot of with our kids with more significant disabilities?
Well, they pictorial, so it's more. I mean, what we see in kind of going along with the book, functional is, as much as we need to do immersion, we have to prepare these kids to be able to function by recognizing signs and understanding what they, stand for, and being able to do sight words and build that communication skill through reading and things like that.
Mm-hmm. We want to prepare our students who have a more limited set of academic skills with some sight vocabulary. If just think for a minute about the restroom doors. We want the students to be able to say, this is the men's room and this is the women's room, and which one is for me. We don't want them to have to sound that out every time they look at a restroom door. That's some sight vocabulary that we need to teach students. And of course, there are many others, stop signs, yield signs. We've got lots and lots of examples of sight vocabulary and its importance to students with more significant disabilities. So make sure you read that section of your book that has to do with phonics, sight words, and maybe some of the comparisons there. Embedded instruction. This is an interesting concept where now we have students more and more with more significant disabilities who are spending time in the general education classroom and therefore in the general education curriculum. And we're able to embed goals and objectives for those students in the regular curriculum. Certainly the skill level is going to be different from many of their peers, but we can pull things out that are appropriate for all students. And there's an interesting section in your book about embedded instruction. UDL principles, Universal Design for Learning. There's an interesting website called CAST.org, which tells all about universal design and how we can make our classrooms more user-friendly, not just for our students with disabilities, but really for everyone. And I've spent some time on that website this week, and I would encourage you to take a look at it as well. And it's the kind of thing that we can share with general educators and help them to be able to accommodate for all kinds of kids in their classrooms without a whole lot of extra effort and without making kids feel like they stand out too much. If we just make environments and opportunities a little more seamless. There's a little video there that you can take a look at that I think gives some great examples, and it would be a good thing to share with our general educators. Community instruction is our third chapter that we looked at this week. And typically older students are the ones who benefit from community instruction, but not always. Certainly we're going to decide that as an IEP team based upon how the student will benefit from it. We do want to have students participate to the greatest extent appropriate. Partial participation is better than no participation at all in community instruction. And so if a student is severely impaired, maybe can't make it through the whole school day, we want to give any opportunity that we can to have some opportunity to be in the community. We want to start with targeted skills. We can always begin with task analysis to make that a more authentic experience for a student in the community. And we want to limit our community instruction to smaller groups. Now, I've seen this done in very different ways. When I was working in Hearst, Euless, Bedford, we took kids out and we did not limit it to 2 or 3 students. We usually took them in larger numbers than this, and it didn't always go well. But of course, this is an issue related to personnel, and school districts do what they're able to do. And if you've got 2 or 3 paraprofessionals that can go out, sometimes you take everybody in your transition class and just move everybody in mass on a school bus to whatever the job site is, and give them opportunities there. So we need to the greatest extent appropriate, make that an opportunity for small group instruction as we're able. That's certainly where students are going to learn the most effectively. But we all know that school districts, sometimes their hands are tied and they do the best they can do with the resources that they have. Do any of you have any particular experiences with community-based instruction that you might want to share? We had a lot of success with that when I was in HEB. Our students loved the time that they spent in the community, and we did fun activities in the community, but we also did work-based opportunities in the community. The kids worked at the Big Lots that was close to us. They stocked shelves. We worked with Sonic. It was in our community over in the mid-cities in Fort Worth and Euless and Bedford, that area. And they prepared the little salt and pepper napkin and fork and spoon packets. Got a lot of positive experiences through working with several community organizations, and took a lot of pride in those experiences. And then, of course, we had several opportunities that the students enjoyed as well. But we never limited it like our book recommends to these smaller groups. We took large groups, maybe 10, 12 students at a time.
How many staff would go with that?
Pardon me?
How many staff would go with, say, 10 kids?
I think we usually had about maybe 4 staff members.
Okay. The one week that I ran in Crowley, I mean, we only had 2 people. We had the teacher and a para. So
yeah, we had
people who do the budget don't realize.
Oh yeah. How many students did you take?
I mean, I would prefer them to only take 5 if they had two staff going, but they ended up taking anywhere from 7 to 10. And I mean, that's really hard because either you don't have enough staff to watch them, and so then some are standing around because you can only put so many cans on a shelf and stuff, and so then others are waiting to kind of get their turn. And so I mean, to me, the considerations are really budget, and if we do what's right for kids, we send them, and we send the right amount of staff. But it's unfortunate that doesn't happen all the time. Yeah,
it's a reality though, and I was the one making the financial decisions as well, and so you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place there, dealing with the monetary issues, the constraints that you have there, and also doing what's right for kiddos. So I think this is a great ideal to shoot for, 2 to 3, but the practicality of that is another matter altogether. But our book does make that recommendation of very small groups. Other comments or questions on that? How about questions in general? Anybody? Y'all ready to call it a night?
Yes.
Okay, let's call it a night. And you can make some considerations about the group project that's coming up, and finish up on your research projects, your research papers. And if you've got any questions, give me a call or an email. I'll go ahead and open up the quiz here shortly, and have a good.
If we're done with our research paper, do you want us to send it to you now?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, are you trying to make enemies with the rest of your class?
No, but y'all, I travel, and so when I'm sitting in a hotel room by myself at night, this is what I do. So, because when I'm at home, I'm doing what y'all are doing, family, kids, and so nobody get mad at me. I just traveled a lot the last.
Right.
Michelle, will you be my partner?
Okay, guys, I'll open up a discussion board so you can start having some group discussions, and then we'll move on with that in the next few days. And I'll open up the quiz, and we're on the downhill, folks. I better get the grading papers, huh? My project tomorrow. All right.
Do we have a final?
We don't have a final. No. Good deal.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We have another small activity next week.
Okay.
It's kind of a commentary on a couple of the videos that you'll watch. You'll just kind of make a little comment on those, and then you'll have the big group project that's due that last week.
Okay.
And you'll have a discussion board.
Yeah, because
so that's what's
my brain's on overload.
Oh yeah, I can understand. So there's not a whole lot more besides this group project. Okay, the little activity next week is not a real big deal. Okay.
Okay.
All right, folks.
Okay.
Thanks a
We'll see you
lot.
tonight. Y'all have a good
Thanks.
weekend. We'll
You
see you.
too.
Bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Dr. Cavan,
Pardon me?
did you see my email about my assignment that I had you clear out, and then, or do you want to hit stop recording?